some of that was good, some of it was crap. People just had to cut out whatever I say things when I say things that make sense.
What is Houski?
It's an open database of property information that can be accessed by businesses or people or governments or whoever needs data for data science or anything like that.
How does it compare to the MLS systems that are available right now?
Well, the biggest difference would be between the existing real estate MLS listing systems and Houski would be mainly that the existing systems are mostly locked down by real estate boards, so they're hard for people to access that aren't in the industry, and actually even for people who are in the industry. So our goal is to kind of facilitate a giant MLS database that anyone can access for any reason so that everyone has access to that data. So if you're an insurance company and you want to pre-fill out a form to do an insurance quote, you don't have to jump through a zillion hoops with a bunch of MLS boards and stuff to try and get that data. Houski could just supply it to you directly.
Has your previous experience in mortgage broking and with real estate agents influenced the way that you've built this, or has it been more based on how it can help entrepreneurs in buying property?
I guess most of the influence would be that having familiarity with these systems, knowing how locked down they are. When we made Houski, which was originally going to be an automated mortgage platform to make getting mortgages easier, we needed real estate data to attract initial customers to use our mortgage solution. And we found that there just wasn't really anything, with the MLS boards having all the information locked down, we really couldn't get access to that information. So we started just building our own alpha version of just kind of out of scrapers of whatever real estate data we could get together. And then it turned out that that had a lot more interest than our actual automated mortgage platform. So we just decided to build that out instead. And that's what Houski is today. Is with the Wikipedia of property data thing that came out of our own need to try and attract customers to our new solution. And so that's what we are now.
How did your previous experience in startups and with founding your own companies before affect your decision-making process and the direction that you pulled the company?
I think being experienced, there's a few ways it affects when you're creating a company. If you're an experienced founder, number one, you don't overhire early. You know that you're gonna have to do basically most things yourself, including build the product. That's pretty typical. So for me, already getting into it, I kind of knew what the game was and how tricky it is, what kind of dedication it takes, and what kind of skills it takes to get something off the ground, and what kind of amount of luck it takes as well. So for knowing that stuff, even when raising investment and stuff, because you're already kind of a veteran in the industry, that really does help, to already know how to set milestones properly or what's realistic and unrealistic. I think people can just kind of tell when you have some experience and when you're brand new. So it did benefit us in quite a few ways to have previous experience creating businesses and startups and whatnot.
You started a group where you meet weekly with other founders in Calgary. Why did you do that, and how do you think that helps you in your business?
The main reason for doing that was actually because there's a lot of psychological hardship to being a founder, and finding other people who are in similar situations is actually very useful, because if you create companies, no one really understands it unless they do it, and it's good to be around like-minded people, because the type of people who make companies tend to be non-conformist weirdos, right? And it's kind of nice to talk to people like that when you're one of those people, to get advice on what you should be doing or what they're doing. And also because you want to build those relationships, because you know that the majority of the people you're talking to on average, the companies will fail, but some ones won't, right? So it's good to have those connections so you can join the company that does well after yours fails, right? There's huge networks of founders for stuff like that, because who's better to hire for an early employee than another founder? Whether they're successful or not, they're still great early hires, right? So it's networking to a degree, it's therapy to a degree, and also it's business advice to a degree from people who are at this, who have a better understanding than, say, your average consultant would of the stage your company is at and its goals and what it's trying to do. So that's why we do that.
You talk about working 12 hours a day. A lot of people, if they were working a job for 12 hours a day, they might find that unsustainable. Do you think that the passion is really what is able to drive you to work that amount of time?
If you're someone who likes instant gratification, it'd be difficult. If you're someone that likes working on large, long-term projects, which I do, and my brother, the co-founder, does as well, for us, it's kind of what we'd be doing anyway, not for this many hours per day, but we've always, created projects over the years that take a while to complete. So just by my nature, it's not that difficult because I just like to do it. But for a lot of people, that would be, especially people who are expecting things to take off instantly, and then they get into that period where there's a long slog of correcting the product and figuring out what people actually want. I could see how that could be demoralizing, especially if you don't expect it. But I think that that's just a personality thing, and some people can do it, and some people just aren't wired to do it. Not that either is good or bad. It's just, I think that's just the way it is. Some people can put off gratification now for some down the road or to build something, and some people just want results now, right? So it depends what your mindset is, I guess, going into it, and what you're ready to sacrifice to do it.
So you have two brothers. Both of them are also in programming. Do you think that there was influence from your oldest brother kind of passing that down, or do you think it was just all separate passions that joined into the same thing?
Well, my dad was a software engineer, which is probably the main influence, right? So we had computers since we were young. So since I was 10 years old, I've had Photoshop. Since I was 14, I was working on game mods for Half-Life 1. So just a long history of having the necessary hardware around to create and work on projects and being interested in the space at that time. So probably my dad, more than anyone, would have been why we are also into technology.
And does your dad still work in the industry at all, or is
Yeah, he's a programmer. He's retired, but yeah, he programs R statistical models in R now for fun, so he's a big nerd.
What is the end goal with Houski? Is it selling for $1 billion, or is it keeping it running for 30 years?
Well, so if you beat video games or whatever, that's not the exciting part. The exciting part is building it and actually changing the world if you can, trying to make it better. The end result would be the satisfaction of knowing that people can actually get fair valuations on their properties and stuff like that, and actually have an idea of what properties are actually worth and whatnot, and help governments make better decisions and businesses make better decisions around property data would benefit everybody, I believe. So an exit for a liquidity event worth $1 billion is cool. You'll be rich, but at the same time, if you're gonna keep making startups with it, your life doesn't really change that much because you're spending most of your time working on these projects anyway. So I would say money, for me at least, would be the end goal. Mostly just the societal benefit, I guess. It is nice to have a lot of money because then you don't have to when you make more companies, you have to worry less about your own personal finances. So that's kind of cool. But I think it's like any video game. It's when you beat the video game, that could be the worst part. You don't always want things to be over if you're working on a project you really care about. But I have some other projects as well that I would pursue after that are kind of in the same vein, I guess. So, and end goal for me is just to work on it, see what happens, and make decisions day by day.
So you're more motivated by making change in the world than by money.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, and